All right, all right, all right. Welcome in Toilets to Titles. This is episode number 181. This evening, we are talking some updates to Frankenstank. We are talking about fantasy football sleepers. I got the Phantom of the Opera playing in the background. I don't know if you could hear that live, but everything is good. I'm here with my guy, Justin Stevens, at JustinFF _ on the Twitter. Justin, what's cooking?
Hey, I didn't. It didn't really hit until you said it. Episode 181. We are that close to 200, man. We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to think of something special for that one because episode 200 should be here before the season starts. So maybe we'll be able to do something fun. I might try to see if I can get Campy to work on a little bit of a video montage of some kind.
Yeah, that'd be cool. A little bit kind of going back to where we started. And I remember the first episode, man. It is crazy how far we come, and it is crazy that we are rolling up on episode number 200. But we have some good things planned over the next few months. So I'm super excited with Scott Fish coming down the pipe. New waves coming out, new entries coming out. Everybody's kind of that's the thing right now, right? So we're going to be talking about that probably towards the end of the month. We'll do a Scott Fishbowl mock draft. I think we have that scheduled for the last week of the month, and then July we'll probably get into redraft season. So I'm super excited. But regardless, however you're listening, if you have the YouTube, if you could hit the like button, throw us a comment, throw us a subscribe. If you have Apple Podcast, throw us a 5-star review. Check out toiletstotitles.com. And get into our Gilded chat. That's where the title tribe is. That's where our Frankenstank chat is. If you want to get into Frankenstank, if you throw us a 5-star Apple review, you get a really good chance of getting into our Frankenstank League. If you get into our Gilded chat, it's another way you can get into the Frankenstank Listener League. So I want to update Frankenstank, Justin. So why don't you read through some of the first updates, and then I'll get into the rest of them.
So the first update that we have here is that it looks like we still have 50 teams to enter. Is that number correct and updated?
I would say so. A few people left today. A few people joined today. So I think we're pretty much spot on 50
out of a total of 96. So that, I mean, we're about halfway there. So, and that's without us really pushing it a heck of a lot, like on the socials and stuff. So we're going to start pushing that soon. But if you want in, make sure you get a hold of us ASAP. We're going to start sending out those invites like immediately. I already got my invite, so I'm pretty excited about that. But we want to give a shout out to all the new members, guys. There's a whole list of these new members. We don't have time to list them all, but we do appreciate you guys for joining us. Make sure you get in our Gilded chat where you can meet up with those new members. We can talk Frankenstank. We even have a channel on the Gilded to talk all about the Frankenstank, because trust me, you're going to want that kind of interaction to get all the information for this. And we kind of buried the lead on this, but we have a new card, Coach.
Yeah.
We've got the card. This is one of the OG's monsters. And we were able to put them into card form thanks to your cousin.
Yes.
This creation here. So it's lucky number 13, right? Like, I mean, unfortunately, it's not Friday the 13th, but
right.
It's still lucky number 13. It's lucky, at least in the horror film industry. Freddy Krueger has joined the Frankenstank League.
Yes. So there is the Freddy Krueger card. So for those of you who aren't super familiar with the Frankenstank League, we have playable cards. Last year was the 3rd year that we've ever done Frankenstank, and this is the 4th year. So year 3, we added 12 playable cards, and you didn't have to draft one. You could draft one, and each card's got a perk that helps you, but it takes up a roster spot. So we figured we'll put 12 in, one for each team, During the season, towards the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, we're like, man, it would be pretty cool if there were tons of cards. So each division, because the way we play it is last year we had 5 12-team divisions. The year prior, we had 3 12-team divisions. And the year prior, we had 1 14-team division. So you can see the trend. We're adding divisions. And every division has a copy of each card. It has a copy of each player. So we were thinking it'd be cool if each division kind of had its own, like one division has these cards, one division, and it's not like we're giving them to you. These divisions are selecting them. So just watching, last year, everybody kind of had the same few cards. So this year it's going to be so much more diverse. and it's going to be very fun to watch how these cards affect the league. But my cousin did reach out to me because if you want to get into Frankenstank, if you have, you kind of want to hear about it, I would say go back and listen to episode 180 because we dove deep into, we had last year's champ Chris Hind on, and then Shane Hallam, who's been in Frankenstank since day one. We had them both on, and we talked about some things we added last year, some things that worked, some things that didn't work, some things we should work on. So we talked on all of that. So you'll get a really good idea. So I'd say pause this episode, go watch that, and then come back in. And so one of the things we wanted to work on, we said we wanted to add some cards. So I put it out there. So all people that were in Frankenstank, I got a few messages. So everybody, just because I haven't debuted your card yet or a card you suggested doesn't mean we're not working on it. Okay. It means that we're going to try to debut one a week. And we also can't be working on banners for the new divisions. So we're going to debut those.
Ooh.
Yeah. They're going to look sweet. So this card, my cousin reached out to be like, hey, it'd be cool if there was something kind of like the franchise tag where you could take a player and he scored an average total of points all season long. And I'm like, man, that would be a good idea. And my cousin's team name is Freddy Krueger. So each team in this league picks a monster as the team name, and you can mine is Wolfman coverage. So it's a play on the Wolfman. And I think his is just straight up Freddy Krueger, which you can also go that way if you want. So I was like, man, I want to pay homage to him. So me and Justin kind of brainstormed, went back and forth on how this could work. And I know I was doing something, so I wasn't by my docs. So I kept saying, Justin, add this. Can you add this? And he was adding it to the doc so I could go back and check it out. And we came back down to, so I'm going to close this out real quick. I'm going to get the back of the card up so that we can pull up what it's all about. So choose one player from your roster to score the average of the top 10 players at this position weekly. The player must record one pass, rush, or reception minimum to be eligible to receive points that week. And if we add an IDP aspect, which we're considering, they'll have to score an IDP stat in order to be in there. So if the player leaves your roster, so if you cut the card, or if you can't be stolen. So it would only be if I'm sorry, you know what? It's the player. I apologize. So if the player, you have to apply this card to a player in a sense. So you'll need to tell us before the season, like Justin used Tutu Atwell, I believe, as an example. So if you apply the Freddy Krueger card to Tutu Atwell, because you need to play it 2 weeks prior to the start of the season. We might adjust it to 1 week, but right now we have it at 2 weeks. You apply this card, then you could start Tutu Atwell every week that he's not on a bye. And as long as he gets a reception or a rush or even a pass, he will score the average of the top 10 receivers. Because if you play him as a receiver, now, if you play him as a quarterback or if you play him as a running back, that's where they stick. These aren't like you can't pick him to be a super flex. Like you can't have him be all those positions. Yeah. You could play him in your super flex, but you can't have him be. It's just he is what he is. All right. And the way we tied it into Freddy Krueger's is it's the player of your dreams, but it's also the player of your opponent's nightmares because it don't look like anything major, but it's going to score a lot of points. So, Justin, what are your thoughts on Freddy Krueger?
This could also potentially be a nightmare for you if you're playing the card. If your player happens to go off in real life and he gets higher than that average, then you're actually kind of hurting yourself a little bit. So there's a lot of strategy involved in this card from that aspect as well, because now you got to look at it as, I need this to be a player that I'm drafting, a player that's at least going to score. So like Tutu Atwell, horrible example. I just threw that out there because you and I were chatting.
It worked, though. It worked.
But he's not going to record a stat several weeks, and you're going to get 0 points. So you want this to be a card that's going to score some kind of stats, but at the same time, you're going to want it to be a guy that maybe other people don't want to steal, because if they steal it, you lose the card. But also
the ideal player is the RB2 in New England. Whoever the RB2 is in New England is a guy who's going to 5 or 6 touches a game, and he might have a breakout game here or there, but he's going to get touches every week.
And I was thinking something more along the lines of that tight end 10 to tight end 15 range, because tight ends score so many points in fantasy football. So, but if it's 10 to 15 range, then maybe that somebody's not going to want to steal him, but also somebody might steal him just so you lose that card. So So yeah, CFB Nation. Yeah. So did you mention them at the top? I believe you did, right?
Yes, yes, check them out. CFB Nation. Make sure you are subscribed for all the college football. I know Debbie Darlings is coming out with Mr. Get It Done D now, and you want to check that out. But yeah, man. So now this is why you listen to this show, because I wasn't even thinking tight ends. Tight end is probably the ideal. Well, you know what? The average of the top 10 though with tight ends, 10 can be so much worse than one when it comes to tight ends.
Uh, yeah, I guess. I would have to go back and look at it, but the problem is, or the reason why I was thinking that is because 1, 2, and 3 score a ton of
Yeah,
points every
right.
week.
Especially in
So,
Frankenstank.
so there would be some average. I'm gonna have to do math again for this card, dude. You're killing me.
Luckily you're decent at math. You're a teacher. So, all right, let's we introduced a new rule thanks to we still got to work out the playoff structure. So, I haven't dove into that yet because speaking of math, that is going to be a whole lot of work to figure out because our playoffs are chaos. So, I'm already working on a card for next week. I'm going to give you a tease. All right? You could try. How about this? How about this? If you guess the name of the card, you get a buy-in. I will pay for your Frankenstank.
Do they do
That's
they
it.
get do they
That's
get up
the
to
hint.
3 guesses?
Yeah.
Okay, they
No,
get up to 3
one.
guesses. Oh, only 1 guess. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Those
right.
are the hints. Those, those are the
So
subtle hints.
a couple other things about the cards. If anybody else has any suggestions and you're watching this right now, drop it in the comments for us. Just drop in the monster idea or the idea of the basic idea of the card. Maybe leave a way for us to contact you so that we can get more of an idea later. But those comments are pretty important to our algorithm. So go ahead and drop that comment in there. But also there were a few cards, John, and this just popped in my head. I know this isn't a Frankenstank episode, but come on,
Yeah.
it's Frankenstank.
Yes.
So there were a few cards last year that weren't used at all, like the Fly and a couple others. So I'm thinking for those that weren't picked at all, we might need to go back and revisit
Yeah.
those and maybe adjust it to make them a little bit more tempting to be drafted.
So I did increase the fly already.
Oh, okay.
So I did, but it wasn't, I just looked over that and I looked over Dracula. So I will tell you, I think last year the fly would increase all your passing stats by a certain number. So I increased it so it was 20%. So all the points your player scores from receptions to receiving would increase by 20% that week. I bumped it to 50%.
Ooh, yeah. There
Yeah.
you go.
So
That was more what I was thinking when we created it. I was thinking about 40, but I like that 50%.
and then Dracula, it was 20% as well. You can steal 20% of a player at the same position's points to remove from that player's score for the week. I bumped it to 50% too. So those were two that they needed, but I do agree with you. I think it'd be a good idea. Let's go back. Let's do some research and let's see what cards weren't picked and if people just missed out by not picking them or if they weren't picked for a reason. But this year, another new rule is we're going to get into a bigger new rule shortly. Another new rule that we included is this came out of last week's episode. The loser, so every division has a rock, paper, scissors competition. We have a bracket and everything. The winner of the rock, paper, scissors competition gets to decide the draft order for that division. And you might say, well, it really doesn't matter. It's just the draft order. Well, guess what? The draft is absolutely bananas in this league. Like it is unlike, so the first and second round, rookies and sophomores only. Third round, the draft order is flipped. You take a non-quarterback veteran only. Fourth round is veteran quarterbacks only. Fifth round is players currently rostered by teams that made the 2022 NFL playoffs. Sixth round is players currently rostered by teams that did not make the 2022 NFL playoffs. So you're going to have to do some research and find out what players might be available there. And then from the seventh round on, it's a normal draft. So you could really burn somebody if you put them in a bad spot, which last year it happened. But this year, the loser, if you make it to the finals and you lose, it is okay. Because what you will get to do is you will get to tell each member in your division what round they have to draft a card by. So each round 1 through 12, they can only pick once. So if they give a guy the second round, that means he has to pick a card by the second round. First round, you have to pick it in the first. Third, fourth, you have to pick it by then. So you could pick it in the first if you have fourth round, or you could wait till the fourth round. So now every single team in Frankenstank will have a card.
Yeah, and so the guy that can choose the draft order may stick you, may give you that number one pick, but then the next guy, the guy that lost, the guy that got second in rock paper scissors, might make you choose a monster card with that first pick after you were excited to get Bijan Robinson with that 101.
Yep.
So, yep.
Yep.
Like
So
it.
I'm currently changing the verbiage on something I seen that was incorrect on our bylaws. So the bylaws are bananas. It's
So
15
this,
minutes in, and we haven't really even talked about sleepers yet. So I want to touch on the final addition that we've added. This is called Rise from the Grave. Okay. And this is geared towards those teams that struggle. If you struggle the first 2 weeks, we don't want you to leave. We want you to continue. There are payouts built into this league for everybody, not just the people who are winning. But this isn't another incentive to stick around because you can turn it around. We're going to put a hero on your roster, right? So all competitors who lose the first 2 games of Frankenstank season will be entered to win, one of the heroes listed below. These heroes can be played every single week. They will account for the same point total every single week, and they cannot be stolen, and they do not have a bye. After the week 2 games have been decided, all eligible teams will have their hero assigned to them. So me and Justin on Toilets to Titles, after the week 2 games, we will have a list by division of each team that lost 2 games. We will have a wheel for each. We'll have to reset the wheel, each division, because these players can only be on one roster in each division. And we'll call this the Rise from the Grave wheel. And you will randomly be assigned one of these players. The heroes are Sidney Prescott from Scream, who scores the lowest at 24. Laurie Strode from Halloween, who scores 25. Graham Hess from Signs, who scores 26. Ellen Ripley from Alien, who scores 28. Clarice Starling from The Silence of the Lambs, who scores 30. Bill Denbrough from It, who scores 32. And finally, Ash Williams from The Evil Dead, who scores 35 points a week. So what are your thoughts, Justin?
What I like about this is that when you get that, you have to decide what position you're going to put them at. So a lot of that might be based on who it is, because Sidney Prescott at only 24 points and Ash Williams at 35, that might make a difference. Like if it's only 24 points and maybe my running backs are fairly stout, maybe I make that a wide receiver. If it's 35 and I'm hurting at tight end, maybe I make that a tight end. So I like that. You're going to have to find out who your hero is and then decide what position that hero is going to play.
And just so you know, for full disclosure, 35 points a week would have been the 20th most points per week of any player in Frankenstank last week. So you're getting a top 20 player weekly. So you don't get the booms that some of these guys get, but you don't get the low floor either.
Right.
You don't get put in the cellar. You broke out.
Right. Yep.
So awesome. So that, and we might tinker with that a little bit as well. But I think the foundation for the new implementations for this league have been added. So Justin, do you have anything else to say about Frankenstank before we move on?
Just for the other guys that are on the team watching this, be ready, because we're going to need to utilize you.
Yeah.
This is getting more and more complicated and more work on our end, which is fine. It's going to be fun, but be ready. And there's one of them, Joey. Be ready, buddy.
Let me. I'm going to show off the card one more time. Bear with me. I got to pull it up here for my guy Joe. Joe, we're going to do you a favor. We're going to pull this card up right now. If you missed it, card number 13 is Freddy Krueger. All right. And again, what this card does is choose one player from your roster to score the average of the top 10 players at his position weekly. So after you draft, right before the season, you'll have to say, I'm applying the Freddy Krueger card to Tutu Atwell or James Robinson, the running back for New England. And every week you play James Robinson, as long as he gets a stat like a carry or a reception or even a pass, he will be eligible and he will score the average of the top 10 players at that position. So James Robinson can be at your flex. he can score average of top 10. Or if you apply Freddie Krueger to Trey Lance or Jordan Love, or like a low end quarterback that you're concerned about. So go ahead, Justin.
Just to clarify, so it's the average of the top 10 for that week, right? It's not
Yes, I'm sorry for that week.
for that. Okay,
Yeah.
I
So
thought so. I just wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry, I was getting carried. There's so many different rules. So it's the average of that week. So, but every single week he will score the average
Right.
of the top 10 players at that position. So it doesn't matter who those top 10 are, you're scoring the average of those top 10. So, so someone says, as someone who got destroyed last year, I love the idea of heroes. Sean Robinson said, Sean, we appreciate you for getting destroyed last year and not quitting.
Yes, that's
You
huge.
know, like that's what a listener league is all about. Like the gilded chat, like the communication, like all the work that goes into it in the off season. We appreciate you sticking around. And we do want to let everybody know as well. I announced this before, but people might have not heard it, or they might have, let me pull this up as well. So we have one more payout that we added this year. And this payout will go to the Monster of the Year. And this will be voted upon by T2T staff and league members postseason. We'll put up a poll. This person's going to win $50. So they're going to double their entry fee for just being active in the chat, being helpful when people don't understand the rules, like helping us run this league, helping each other, being active, being a good community member, and being a good little monster. All right. Yep. So that is a way for you to win $50 so you can win your pay for last season and the upcoming season. So that's it. I think if anybody in the comments has any other questions about Frankenstank for the rest of the episode, chime in, let us know. But we're going to move on. However you're listening, whoever you are, if you want to be a supporter of the show, if you want to help us, we're doing all sorts of things like this. If you're a new member of Frankenstank, DM me your address. I'm going to send a lanyard to you. I don't think I have any down here, but things like that we're doing. If you support Patreon, patreon.com/toilets titles, you allow us to do cool stuff like that. So $1.50 gets you into the title tribe. I mean, you can get into the gilded chat for free. So I'm not kidding anybody, but it just helps us. $1.50 a month, you become a title tribe member. You're in the gilded chat, but it also guarantees you an invite into Frankenstank. All right. Tier 2 is $3 a month. It gets you exclusive content. We have a Patreon exclusive thread in Gilded, and that's going to be driven by you. You're going to tell us what you want, and we're going to do it for you. Tier 3 is $5, which is going to get you early access to our waiver wire episodes in season. So I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it. There's 3 more tiers. Just go out and check out patreon.com/toilets titles. Help support the team, because we're not just doing Frankenstank. We're going to the NFL draft. We're going to the NFL combine. We're going to the Senior Bowl. Probably going to be going to the Shrine Bowl this season. We're going all over to try to bring you content live on the spot so we can keep you dialed in on NFL, fantasy football, and NFL draft. So go ahead, Justin.
So speaking of live, we're also going to the Fantasy Football Expo, just like you just mentioned. We will be doing some form of a live draft for the Frankenstank at the Fantasy Football Expo. So if you're going to the Expo, you're watching this, you're already in the Frank, let us know. We'll move you into a division to make that happen so that we can do a live draft there. And if not, I'm going to come up with the 12 while we're there. So if we don't get enough interest, I will have a live draft there one way or another. So
yes.
So yeah, I'm excited about it. I had to throw it out there.
It would help if you were somebody who's going to be there, who's played in Frankenstank before, so you could help Justin get everybody up to speed, because everybody is going to need a crash course. We're going to need to create like a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to have to rent out a room in the Hall of Fame and give.
I've got an idea for that.
These are all the details you need. You're locked in. Let's draft. All right, let's move on to sleepers, man. So Justin, I'm going to let you go through your sleepers for everybody who's going to be playing fantasy football, not just Frankenstank. Any fantasy football league, could be redraft, could be dynasty. So Justin's got you covered with some players for each of those categories. So go ahead, my guy.
Yeah, full disclosure, because of the stacked and bonus points that you get in Frankenstank, these are not probably going to be good picks. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe a couple of them might. But I'm going to start with Malik Davis. I decided to do one redraft sleeper for each position. And then I threw in an extra little bonus dynasty sleeper for you here. But I got Malik Davis. Zeke has moved on from the Cowboys, and the Cowboys let it happen partly because of the money, but also partly because Zeke Elliott is declining, and they're confident in their backups, their new backups in that backup room. So obviously, Tony Pollard is the number one, the de facto number one. But when it comes to the backups, Malik Davis is clearly better than Ronald Jones or Deuce Vaughn. The Cowboys ran the ball the fifth most in the league last season. That's not going to change much this season. So um, the value here is that Davis's current rank in ADP, according to Fantasy Pros, is the RB 103 overall, which is an ADP of 301. That means he's being drafted in round 26, which means he's not being drafted. So the reason I like this is that every single NFL team uses two running backs. And I get even the workhorses, even your Derrick Henrys, even your Jonathan Taylors, they sit out some, right? So that backup is going to get some kind of play. And Malik Davis is talented. He is quick. He's got some burst to him. And in the outside shot and we hope it's an outside shot anyway. If Pollard happens to go down, then Malik Davis's role even more so increases. But the value is that he's a guy that's going to get the ball. He's going to play a little bit every single week. And if it's a deeper league, you're getting him for free in the last round. So there's the value there.
Another note, the running backs coach in Dallas and the offensive coordinator who had an opportunity to play him in the playoffs and didn't after Pollard went down, which kind of scared everybody away from Malik Davis. Those guys are gone. So whatever he did to get in their doghouse, he's starting with a clean slate. Even though the head coach is still there, Mike McCarthy's taken over the offense. He's got a new running back coach. He's got a new opportunity to prove to them he deserves those reps. So I like his opportunity and chances here.
Now there is some nepotism with Deuce Vaughn, so who knows? Maybe that might that might hurt a bit. But Juwan Johnson is my next guy, tight end for New Orleans. The sleeper app has Juwan Johnson listed as the tight end 15 overall. His ADP is 157 right now. That's the first pick in the 14th round. So again, he's pretty much almost not being drafted. Most leagues out there are going to be right around 14 to 16 players. So you're getting him in those really late rounds. The value here is that 30% of his snaps were from the slot position last season. That's the seventh most of any tight end last season. He had the sixth highest target distance at 9.6 yards per target. So he's being used as a wide receiver. Chris Olave quickly embedded himself as the wide receiver one. And even with a hopefully healthy Michael Thomas, there's still a lot of questions there in that passing arsenal, especially at that slot receiver or third wide receiver spot. Juwan will continue to be utilized as a wide receiver in that offense. And now he has a quarterback that actually knows how to utilize his tight ends. I see a huge jump from the number 18 tight end in points per game from last season to somewhere around 10th in points per game this season, making my expected ADP value for him to be around the 104 mark, which is right around the 908 pick. So in other words, you're going to get him in the 14th round and get a 9th round value out of him. So that's a 5-round value.
That's a sleeper. So I'm going to move on to one of my sleepers. And this is somebody that I think a lot of people I'm kind of seeing in the underground a little bit. That's Tyquan Thornton, the wide receiver out of New England. Second round draft capital in 2022. 6'2", 183 pounds. Ideal frame for the outside receiver. I know they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, and I know they got Hunter Henry at tight end, and I'm not really concerned about Devontae Parker and Kendrick Bourne because they're Jags. They're just a guy. All right, Tyquan Thornton came in last year with an 8.54 RAS with a 4.24 40-yard dash. Elite. And I think his 10-yard split was in like the 99th percentile. Supposedly, all over Twitter, coming out of minicamp last year, the dude looked lights out. I wasn't there in Foxborough, but it was, I know it's minicamp, right? It's OTAs, it's off-season work, but people were singing his praises. Broke his collarbone in preseason. 22 receptions, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns as a rookie. Nothing exceptional. Now, you might have to battle some people for this sleeper, which will make him not a sleeper if you're playing with people who've done their research. But by the time August rolls around, it's going to be, the rookie is going to be the hype. And I don't think the Tyquan Thornton hype is really going to be there. So I think you're going to be able to pick this guy up. New offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien supposedly at mini camps and OTAs because Thornton's there. He's making it a point to get him the ball. So I like Tyquan Thornton as a sleeper this year. Another wide receiver for me is Justin Ross. Another person that if you're, following a lot of the same community members that I am. People have been on him since college, but he did have a pretty nasty injury in college. He was a superstar his freshman year. Many doubted he would ever play an NFL snap, and not because of his talent. It's just because of the injury. All right. But now he's linked to Patrick Mahomes and he's healthy. Andy Reid came out and said he's making plays. He looks healthy and he's earned Patrick Mahomes' trust. So those are three things that make me believe if he's guy who's going after the 14th round, the somewhere between 12 and 14, there's possibility he could be a high-end wide receiver 3. And if you're in a league that plays 3 wide receivers and a flex, that's value. Anybody with Patrick Mahomes is going to have a high floor. Okay, so that's my second sleeper. So go ahead, Justin.
So something else about Thornton that I'd like to say is Juju is there now, but we have all seen that Juju cannot be that de facto wide receiver 1. He's a solid, if not one of the best in the league as a wide receiver 2. But as a wide receiver 1, he's never really been able to impress. I mean, I'm a narrative guy. There is a narrative here to suggest that if they try to utilize him more as a wide receiver 2, there's a good chance that Thornton could really pop off. So I like that one. Let's see. I've got Nick Westbrook Akeen. I never pronounce it right, so I always call him Ikea.
I think that's it.
Yeah, but I'm just going to
I'll Wikipedia it.
Yeah, I'm just going to call him Ikea, though. So his current ADP is 291. That's the 2503. Again, not even being drafted, not even close to being drafted. He was the 9th in the league last season in yards per reception at nearly 16 yards per catch. He only averaged 4.9 points per game last season, but that was with Ryan Tannehill's poor accuracy when targeting Westbrook. When he targeted Westbrook, he was 66th in the league overall, and that's out of all of the quarterback wide receiver connections in the league. He was at 66th overall. Tannehill also ranked in the bottom third in the league in nearly every possible accuracy and efficiency category last season. Tannehill also doesn't do anything major in the running game. So where the value is here is with Will Levis. So I get that this is a deeper one, but I'm honestly, I wrote this up thinking that Will Levis would take over the starting job by week 7 or sooner, thinking, right after their bye week, they would finally have enough. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out the gates in week 1 with Will Levis as the starter. He's just clearly a talented quarterback, and Tannehill never really has been. I mean, he started as a backup in Miami, and he got to play, but he's never been known as that guy that can win games. So I can see Levis coming in, and when Levis comes in, he's going to make this a dual threat offense all over again. So you're going to get Westbrook Ikea for free in the deeper drafts or even off waivers early on next season. If they come out and say that Levis is going to be the starter, you need to get him in those late rounds. If not, get him after weeks 1 or 2, because down the stretch, he's going to be a viable wide receiver 3 for you when Levis is at the helm.
I love it. I think that's there needs to be somebody catching passes there in Tennessee. I know Treylon Burks is there, but I'm interested in a guy who could be cheap, who might produce just as much, if not more. I'm going to go to a running back. I got Kendry Miller out there in New Orleans, 5'11", 220 pounds, 3-down build, led the NCAA in yards per attempt in 2021 with 7.5, then ran Zach Evans out of town. Did very well, coming off a little bit of an injury. I could see a situation where Jamal Williams leads. So this is Kamara's there, Jamal Williams is there. I don't think at redraft people are going to be taking Kendry Miller. Well, Kamara looks as if he's lost a step, and I love Kamara. I had him on all my rosters last year. I love the way he plays. I love that quiet assassin mentality, just tough. I think he plays bigger than he is. I've always respected him for that. But he looks old. He's also got a suspension looming. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets suspended, comes back, and then gets shipped out of town. Jamal Williams, 28 years old, a lot of tread on tires from last year. I could see a situation where Jamal Williams is hot out the gate. I could see a situation where Kendry Miller is a free agent in most fantasy leagues. I would stash Kendry Miller because he seems like the type of player that down the stretch can help you get to the playoffs and make moves in the playoffs. That's like every year there's rookie running backs like that. And Kendry Miller just screams that to me. A guy I want to stash. I'm going to keep him on my bench. I'm going to wait until he gets his opportunity. He's going to come in. He's going to be exciting. The city, the team is going to just be excited by the way he plays. and he's going to come in, he's do work for you. So I got Kendra Miller. So go ahead, Justin.
I like it, and you also know that I like Aaron Rodgers. That's always been kind of a thing on the show here. So he's currently listed as the QB 17 and has an ADP of 94 in super flex leagues. That's the 8-10 spot in the redraft. So even in redraft super flex, he's going at a late 8th round. That's insane to me. Since 2008, Rodgers finished as the QB 13. Okay, not yeah, since 2008. He's only had 3 bad seasons. In 2018, he was coming off of his collarbone injury, and he still was the QB 13. The year before that is when he broke the collarbone, so we can throw that season out. And then last year was the worst season he's ever had, with the absolute worst team around him that he's ever had, and he was the QB 21. If you take away those 3 seasons, then Aaron Rodgers has never finished worse than QB9 in any single season, and he averages the QB 3.5 overall over that span. He's a damn good quarterback. He's a damn good fantasy quarterback, and he's being slotted as the QB 17 when he has more and better weapons now than he's ever had, or at least that he's had in quite some time. Even when he had Devontae Adams and it was just Devontae Adams, like even now, this is still better than what he had when it was just Devontae Adams. Um, so and last season, Rodgers didn't look particularly awful on his own, but you're going to get a guaranteed at worst QB 10 for the season, with a lot of weeks where he's going to pop off and have that QB 1 week for you. And you're getting them in the 8th round in Superflex. So in one quarterback leagues, it's even way lower than that. I think it was something like the last round that Rodgers was going. So incredible value. So snag up Aaron Rodgers in the 7th just to guarantee you get him.
I'm going 2 quarterbacks here. One of them used to be in New York, and that's Mike White for the Miami Dolphins. If you're playing in a super flex league, he is a sleeper. He's another player I am stashing. Tua can't stay on the field. He has shown that. The weapons around White will be absolutely phenomenal. And he looked decent in his time in New York. He was throwing the ball. He had the whole city. I mean, the whole team was wearing Mike White shirts. So the players obviously liked him. So I'm picking up Mike White. I'm stashing him on my bench in Superflex leagues. And then this next cat is taking over for Aaron Rodgers, and it's Jordan Love, the Green Bay Packers. And I'm not just stashing him. I'm probably going to start him in my Superflex spot. All right. So Christian Watson, Romeo Dubs, Luke Musgrave, 3 solid options for receiving. Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed are both solid depth pieces. He's got Aaron Jones. He's got A.J. Dillon. He's got running backs who can protect him. They're going to keep the defense honest. And Green Bay's got a history of producing quarterbacks. So all of these things make me lean towards the fact that I think Jordan Love, I have him in our Dynasty rankings. I have him ranked this. So I know this isn't just Dynasty. This is also redraft. So I think he's, for this season, the value will probably be very good. But I have him as my quarterback 12 in Dynasty. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm in on Jordan Love, man. So over to you, Justin.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that with those weapons, absolutely. Um, so the last pick I have here is more of a dynasty stash. Keep in mind, I got rid of all my IDP dynasty leagues before this last season, and I've cut down to all but 2 of my actual what I call dynasty leagues. But in those 2 leagues, there was one league where this next guy was still available. He was a free agent. I picked him up for free. Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay. And I get he got hurt, and that's probably why. I mean, ACL tear, he's going to be out deep into 2023. But if he is available in your leagues, you've got to go pick him up right now. But if this is a redraft, or I'm not a redraft, if this is a dynasty startup, you still need to target him in those later rounds where a lot of people aren't even considering him right now because of the injury. But Robinson showed real potential and was averaging over 70% of the snap share with the Giants over his last 4 games before getting hurt. And he averaged 10 points per game in his last 5 games of the season, or of that last season before he got hurt. I look for a huge bounce back season in year 3. So that would be 2024. So we give him 2023 to recoup. He'll be back in 2023 at some point. Not going to be the same. He's gonna need that time to get his feet under him. And then in 2024, that's year 3. That's when wide receivers usually break anyway. He's already talented. He's already shown that he's talented enough to be the wide receiver one for the Giants. He will be that wide receiver one that Daniel Jones really needs in 2024. So the value here is that Dynasty Trade Calculator has him valued at an early second round pick in comparison to a 2024 rookie draft pick. So they're saying that he's equal to a 2024 early second round pick. Like I think it was like a 202 or 203, something like that. So I think you could snag him from a contender right now for a third, or even worse, maybe third, maybe even a fourth, or maybe 2/4 or something like that, and get value out of him that in 2024 and moving forward is going to be greater than some of the first round picks that are taken in the rookie draft next year in 2024.
I love it. I love it. So there are some sleepers. So we got you covered. We're gonna be doing mock drafts coming up. We're gonna be doing some redraft mock drafts. We're gonna be doing some dynasty mock drafts. We're gonna be doing some SFB mock drafts. So we'll be diving deeper into these guys as we get some front row seats to ADP. Right. Once we start doing these mocks, once we start doing these real drafts, we're gonna see. It's one thing for people to talk about these players. We're gonna see where people really value them. And then we'll have an up close and personal opinion on sleepers, on value. And we'll be relaying all of that to you all off season to get ready for the 2023 fantasy football season. So again, go ahead, Justin. I apologize.
And we have one more that we're not going to talk about here, but if you're at Patreon, you're going to see it in the Patreon chat over on the Gilded. We're going to talk about that player over on the Patreon Gilded chat.
Love it. So patreon.com/toilets to titles will get you access to the Patreon tier in our Gilded chat. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, share, all that stuff helps the algorithm. If you have Apple Podcasts, throw us a 5-star review. Reach out to me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps or Justin at JustinFF_ or the show at Toilets to Titles. If you would either A, like to get in the Gilded chat, or B, get into Frankenstank, because we would love to see you there. We would love to play with you. We got about 50 spots. They're filling up quickly. I'm adding like 4 or 5 people a day. So these things, we're going to have 96 total in there. So we're almost halfway full, and we want you in there with us. So check that out. If you want more in-depth analysis of what that's about, go back and check out episode number 180. It'll get you, it won't fill you in on everything, but it'll get you a little bit closer to understanding what we're all about. And then once you get in the league, you can check the bylaws out. And when you're in the Gilded chat, you can ask your questions in there, and everybody helps each other out because it's far enough from the season that no one's being cutthroat yet. Cutthroat comes down the corner. So everybody, we appreciate you for checking this out. Check out Head to Head IDP coming up next after us, and we'll catch you all later on. Take care.